say his name. Walter Scott, won't you say his name? Jermaine Reed, say his name. Jermaine Reed, say his name. Jermaine Reed, say his name. Jermaine Reed, won't you say his name? Philip White, say his name. Philip White, say his name. Philip White, say his name. Philip White, won't you say his name? Say his name. 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 Eric Garner, 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 won't you say his name? Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, won't you say his name? Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, won't you say his name? Say his name. 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 Won't you say his name?
Freddie Gray, say his name. Freddie Gray, say his name. Freddie Gray, say his name. Freddie Gray, won't you say his name? Ayanna Jones, say her name. Ayanna Jones, say her name. Ayanna Jones, say her name. Ayanna Jones, won't you say her name? Sandra Bland, say her name. Sandra Bland, say her name. Sandra Bland, say her name. Sandra Bland, won't you say her name? Say her name. Say her name. Say her name.
Somebody put that hashtag in the comments. Hashtag say her name.
Say her name. Won't you say her name?
Welcome to another edition of Bishop Swan Live. And tonight, we're going to be dealing with an important topic in the news all week. It's been trending all over social media. Activists and journalists, Sean King made a statement. He said, as long as we're out here taking down monuments, that are offensive because of their history being steeped in racism and white supremacy, then we need to take down all of the symbols to white Jesus, because it is the ultimate symbol of white supremacy. And people have had a fit about him saying that. But here's the deal. Sean was right. White Jesus is a symbol of white supremacy and racism in as much as the swastika is of anti-Semitism, in as much as the Confederate flag is of racism. And here's the thing that I don't understand, because most of the white folks that are having a fit about it will readily admit that, okay, Jesus probably wasn't white. They throw that probably in there, because there are some who still try to make the argument he was part of the 11 teams and this and that, and anything but black. Anything but black. He was olive skinned and brown skinned, and he was a Jew. Anything but black. Like Jews aren't black. Like the original Jews weren't black. Come on, man, for real. But they in as much as they admit he wasn't white, they can't have him be black. Can't have him be black. And so I just want to unpack this this evening. Probably have a shorter show than usual, because I was on last night, and if you missed the Bishop's barbecue last night, you better go back and watch the video. We'll go on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. It's in all those places. Man, when I tell you Dr. Freddie Haynes and Bishop Rudy McKissick set it on fire last night with this conversation we had about the bastardization of scripture to justify the dehumanization of black people. Man, I'm telling you, you need to go get that. Matter of fact, that ought to be required watching. You ought to have your kids watch that. They ought to bring that into the classroom for real. Two preeminent scholars breaking it down, man. And so, you know, the Bishop's Barbecue was on fire last night. We continue this coming Wednesday. Listen, I got a power pack panel, a diverse panel, power pack panel come this Wednesday. You don't want to miss this, man. I'm telling you, you need to set aside the time, put a pin in it, save the date. I've got coming up on this coming Wednesday, 2 white people, 2 black people. And man, I'm telling you, the conversation is going to be off the charts. I've got the Reverend Nelson Rivers, who was community engagement director for the NAACP. Now he works for the National Action Network side by side with Reverend Al Sharpton. I've got my friend, my brother, Pastor Michael McBride. You know Mike McBride, Mass for the People, Live Free. The brother is out there on the streets doing the doggone thing. He was on the front line in Ferguson and so many other places. He's going to chop it up with me on Wednesday. Then I've got the actress Alyssa Milano. Y'all know Phoebe from Charm. She's coming on with me on Wednesday. And then I got Tim Wise, anti-racism activist and author. Y'all know Tim. Tim's been with me on several occasions down here in Springfield. And we're gonna have a wonderful conversation. It's gonna be real. There will be no raisins in the potato salad. Even though I got white folk coming to the cookout, ain't gonna be no raisins in the potato salad, and nothing but truth served hot off the grill with the Bishop's own special barbecue sauce. So y'all need to be here on next Wednesday, okay? For real, for real. On next Wednesday, you need to be in the house for the Bishop's barbecue, okay? Now listen. My subject tonight, where did American white Jesus come from? Okay. Where did American white Jesus come from? That's the question of the day. Where did he come from? How did we get him? How did a man who was born in Northeast Africa all of a sudden turn into some blonde-haired, blue-eyed European surfer dude? And see, here's the thing, because most of my white brothers and sisters out there will say, well, it really doesn't matter, Bishop, what color Jesus was. Well, if it didn't matter, why did y'all change it? You know, why didn't you leave it as it was? And if it don't matter, why you mad because I said he's black? Seriously, if it don't matter, right? If something don't matter, you ain't tripping on it, right? But the fact that y'all are tripping on it lets me know, yeah, it matters. It matters. Tell a friend, tell somebody the Bishop is on the air. Take a short break, play a song. Gonna come back. We're gonna chop it up. Where did American white Jesus come from? And then we'll open up the phone lines. Let's have a conversation tonight, my brothers and sisters. Let's get it crunk.
Would be the end of the road if you refuse to change.
Reach a little higher,
Reach a little higher,
dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further,
go a little further.
don't stop,
Come on,
don't
come on,
stop.
come on,
Reach a little higher,
come on. Yeah,
dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further,
go a little further.
don't stop,
Come on, don't stop.
The essence of life is growth, but the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Your life will never change until you get disgusted with where you are. Whatever you don't hate is what you tolerate. You must learn from the past, plan for the future, and live for today. For it is your daily routine that determines your success or failure in life. It's the choices that you have made up until this point that will determine the rest of your life. So break the cycle that doing enough is simply good enough. You only get out what you put in, so don't settle for the crumbs when you can have a whole loaf. So push yourself beyond your limitations. Come on.
reach
Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Come on. Don't reach stop. A little higher. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So you gotta break the routine of trying to beat the system. Manipulators will always try to bypass the process for the quick progress. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no elevators to the top. You gotta take it one step at a time. You gotta break the routine of allowing others to get into your head to control who you are and where you're going. You see, when you're about the positive, you're gonna always have haters. But don't let your haters push you down. Let your haters push you forward to the next level. So when people show you who they really are, don't perceive them to be something else that they're not. See, a zebra does not change his stripes. So you gotta keep pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, there you go. Come on. Be a little deeper. Come on. Yeah. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Come on. Don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Be a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Come on. Come on. Come on. You got to understand the greatness is the nature that you were born out of. You'll never discover your greatness without hard work and dedication. Greatness says more about who you are and what you expect for yourself.
Reach a little higher, y'all.
Will always attract greatness. Show me your
dig a little deeper.
The future.
Don't stop. Okay? I just had to get that, just a little bit of inspiration up in here. Kind of motivate y'all a little bit on tonight. But let's get into this. Let's get into this conversation. White Jesus has got to go. Okay? White Jesus gotta go. Sean has received death threats. And I know how he feels because I've received many death threats. They're harassing him and his family, all because he said white Jesus is a form and a perpetuation of white supremacy. He didn't lie. He didn't lie. He told the truth. And the dismantling of white supremacy, which includes, but is not limited to, the critiquing of systems. When we critique systems that perpetuate white supremacy, they say we're being divisive. How are we being divisive when we critique white supremacy, unless you're saying that we all ought to be united behind white supremacy? That means that Black people and other non-white people who are the victims of white supremacy ought to unite behind white supremacy and just walk in lockstep and agree to be oppressed by white people. Do you hear the logic behind that notion? How can I be divisive by talking about what oppresses me, by condemning what oppresses me and what murders me and what discriminates against me and what puts me into second-class citizens and what citizenship and what puts my people into poverty? How can I be divisive by condemning and fighting against that? So dismantling white supremacy includes the indictment against whiteness. It includes the exposure of hidden structures that reinforce white supremacy. And that includes white so-called Christian religion. Dr. Freddie Haynes put it down last night in what was probably my favorite quote from the barbecue on last night. And he said basically that white Christians have been so busy being white, they haven't gotten around to being Christian. They ain't had time to be Christian yet because they've been spending so much time being white. And perpetuating everything that propagates white supremacy and that props up their whiteness. And so dismantling white supremacy includes an honest critique of whiteness. That's just real. Um, um, we've got to have an honest critique of the structures that reinforce white supremacy, those structures that result in the fragmentation of a familiar system that yields privilege to white people without giving it to anybody else. And oftentimes it yields privilege to white folks who aren't even aware of it and don't even believe that they benefit from it, and believe that they just got to where they are on their own volition. They just got it like that. And so what happens is racism in America fragments the human family. It exacerbates. It is exacerbated by the continual destabilization of the familiar and unseen system of white supremacy. The forced decentering of whiteness is what we have to do, because America centers whiteness. That's what happens when white folks say, I don't see color. What they're basically doing is centering whiteness and saying, I don't see color. Everybody's the same as long as they assimilate to my whiteness. Okay. That's how they don't see color. But see, here's the thing. America has always seen color. They saw color when they murdered Native Americans and stole their land. They saw color when they enslaved Africans and lynched, brutalized, dehumanized their subsequent generations. They saw color. Now, all of a sudden, when we talk about dismantling the system that they put in place to subjugate and oppress Black people in particular and non-white people, all of a sudden, well, I don't see color. I don't see color. And when you don't see color, what you're basically telling me is you're dismissing the lived experience of suffering people amongst a wide range of white people who have perpetuated white supremacy. So you're basically dismissing my life experience whenever you tell me that you don't see color. Those that are overtly racist and those that are covertly racist, none of them consider themselves racist, but many of them consider themselves people of faith, specifically Christians. Okay. They keep saying that America is a Judeo-Christian nation. It's not, but let's say for the sake of argument that it is. Most white folk in America consider themselves Christian, whether they're Democrat or Republican, whether they're overtly or covertly racist, they consider themselves Christian. And many of the white Christian faith, and I say white Christian faith because there's a difference between white Christianity and the Christianity that I practice. So many people of the white Christian faith identify with the passion of the Christ, the bodily experience of the suffering Jesus of Nazareth, in the gory details in all four gospels of him being brutalized, buried, dying on the cross, rising again. But the prevalent association of Jesus by a bodily mark, that is his construction as a race human being, more specifically by the dominant U.S. American narrative, is that Jesus is white. And this depiction of Christ has resulted in what theologian Willie James Jennings describes as a Christian segregationist mentality, right? And such a mentality basically serves not only as a barrier to intimacy and solidarity with non-white people, but it also reinforces the dominant narrative of white supremacy, not only in the church, but in broader society. Because you cannot perpetuate white supremacy in broader society in a so-called Christian nation if deity ain't white. Okay? So you got to make deity white in order to make this white supremacy thing work. So whose sense of morality the church influences, if not outright determines, paradoxically, is white Jesus, white people through white Jesus, a Jesus that reflects the social construction of whiteness, who is actually causing suffering, not only the suffering of people of color, whose lived experiences reflect perpetual crucifixion. Okay, we identify more with Jesus than white folks ever will, because we've been lynched like Jesus was lynched, systemically lynched. Okay, in state-sanctioned violence, even as Jesus was lynched by violence that was sanctioned by the Roman government. All right. But also the suffering of white people. It also results in the suffering of white people whose colonized Christian theological imaginations can't comprehend suffering beyond a savior made in their image, limited by the reflection of their own racial formation. The extent of their experience with suffering is through a white Jesus who looks like them. It's amazing how they can vibe with, and how the passion of the Christ resonates with them, but yet instill the passion of black people who are brutalized every single day in America doesn't resonate with them. It's strange to me how you can identify with a black man born to a single mother, whose father dies while he's young, who's raised in the hood. You don't believe it was the hood? He was raised in Nazareth. Nazareth doesn't even show up on many of the ancient maps. It was an obscure place. Okay. Not only does it not show up on the map, when disciples came to Nathanael and said, "Hey, man, we found the Messiah." And he wanted to know, "Where did you find the Messiah?" He said, "Well, we found him in Nazareth." And he said, "What? Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" Ain't nothing good. The Savior ain't coming out the hood like that. How they take a story of a black man born to a single teenage mother whose daddy died early, whose father was a blue-collar worker as a carpenter trying to make ends meet, who was rejected in his own home, prophet is without honor in his own home, who had charges trumped up on him, was tried in a kangaroo court and then lynched. But then you can't understand or empathize with the plight of black folk in America, whose experience is much like Jesus's experience. So you can only see suffering through the lens and the hermeneutic of a white European, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus, but you can't understand, empathize with, or sympathize with suffering of black people against the backdrop of white supremacy in America. That's absolutely amazing to me. White folks need a vital realization that salvation is not the only thing that comes from the crucifixion and the resurrection of a non-white body, okay, of Jesus. Salvation is not the only thing that comes through the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus, but liberation also comes through the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus. If it's true what Cornel West proposes, that black suffering is required for the preservation of white America, then what can be said of white suffering? Is white suffering necessary for anything? I submit to you that white suffering is necessary to deconstruct white supremacy, starting with the church, where Jesus must be completely disassociated from whiteness. Let me say that again. I said Jesus must be completely disassociated from whiteness. Whiteness is his colonized state. Okay. His death and his suffering are necessary not only for white people to truly process and reconcile their own suffering as a result of the system of white supremacy that whiteness reinforces, but also before white folk can ever partake of the work in solidarity with the suffering wrought on non-white bodies by the same system. Jesus must be reimagined as someone who not only suffers with the suffering among us, but who can also speak to the systems that oppress without collusion with those very systems. Because white Jesus is in collusion with the very systems that oppress black people. He's a co-conspirator. All right. He's an accomplice with the systems that oppress us. And so he's got to be completely disassociated from whiteness. And such a disassociation will result in an even greater but necessary fragmentation in order to rebuild. All right. We've got to rebuild intimacy within the beloved community, within the church. We've got to dismantle whitenized Christianity in order to get to true Christianity, which includes a black revolutionary liberating Jesus. All right. We've got to challenge that colonized understanding of Jesus and a stunted theological imagination that causes more suffering if we're ever going to experience any level of unity and any true Christianity. So white Jesus, he got to go. See, here's the problem. Y'all type this in because I'm gonna have to requote myself. Here's the problem. Black Jesus was crucified. White Jesus needs to go to the cross. Okay? That white Jesus has never been on the cross. He's never suffered, bled, and died for the people. White Jesus needs to be crucified. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe all the pictures that you've seen. All right? Don't believe the blonde-haired guy on the cross. No. That was black Jesus that was crucified, that bled and died for us. And so I submit to you, if we're really going to dismantle white supremacy, white Jesus got to go. And so we need to take white Jesus to the cross. He needs to go to Golgotha. For real, for real. He's got to go. So where did, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to put out my little spiel on it. And then I'm going to open up the phone lines. Where did white American Jesus come from? Where did he come from? How did he get here? How did we get a white dude from a black man who, I'm confused, from a black man who was born in Northeast Africa, from a black man who was a refugee in Egypt. Y'all do know that you cannot hide in Africa among black people if you're blonde haired and blue eyed. You know that, right? It don't work like that. You cannot hide. You can't do it. Can't do it. So I don't even understand unless what y'all are trying to tell me is you're rewriting all of history and you making everybody in Egypt, everybody in Africa, you're making them white. And maybe that is what you're doing, because when y'all make the movies, that's exactly what you do. When you made the Ten Commandments, you got Charlton Heston, and you made Moses white. You made the Egyptians white, the Israelites white. But that's a whole nother message. But where did this white Jesus come from? So for centuries, from the Middle Ages until today, European and American religious art has been created in the image of white Europeans. These artistic interpretations include depictions of the apostles, the saints, of Mary, and of course Jesus, that are venerated largely by people of the Catholic faith. These images became icons and symbols to whiteness. The Catholic Church sanctioned and encouraged the veneration to help maintain and create relationships with Christ and the saints as white folk. And as a result, they carried significant influence because people venerate icons. That's the reason why you got all these conservatives tripping about tearing down monuments to Confederate soldiers. They venerate, these icons. It's about our heritage, all of that kind of stuff. According to historians and professors of religious studies, representations of divine beings bridge the gap between the human and the divine because they evoke emotion in the viewer. Okay. And from that emotion comes the desire to live a better life, to pray more devoutly, to feel healing comfort. The icon meditates two parties in a face that forms a common interactive boundary, right? They venerate, they idolize these icons. And so to them, these icons are, in their mind, a true representation of who they represent. So in their minds, generation after generation after generation after generation of white folks, this white Jesus, this icon, this depiction, in their mind, it's a true representation of who Jesus is, what Jesus looks like, what he represents. These images become sacred for many people, subconsciously. And so do the physical attributes of the icon. It becomes sacred. It's more than on the surface. At a deep subconscious, emotional, and spiritual level, it becomes real to them. It becomes real to them. It becomes a living meditation of who and what they're supposed to represent. And so you see it all of the time. That's why white folks trip. That's why they trip. Sometimes I just go on and I post it just to watch white folks trip. I just post something like, I'll tweet something like, Jesus was black, just to see him have a fit. Or I'll say something like, y'all are waiting on the return of Christ. What are you going to do when he comes back and he's black? And man, I mean, they come out like roaches with the lights on. The ones who are saying his color doesn't matter, but they get triggered when you challenge that depiction in their mind that they have venerated and at a deep subconscious level have accepted as a true representation of who these biblical figures, these scriptural figures are supposed to represent. Images of Jesus that are white, to them, are the real deal. Go into their living rooms, go into their churches. They are signs of the piety and the sacredness that they believe these to represent. Open up their Bibles, look at their artwork. And then I mean, they really, really, really get upset. They really get upset. And so, what have we seen? We've seen people go off. We've seen at the, I believe it's in Minnesota, the Mall of America, the largest mall in the United States, a few years back, the first time they ever hired a black man to play Santa. Santa, a figure that is that was derived from a black man, Saint Nicholas, black man who lived in Turkey, that they made into a white man from the North Pole, a fictional character. Black man was playing Santa, and they had a fit. White folks had a fit. They called the mall. They refused to bring their children to the mall. I mean, they had a fit. You remember a couple years ago, they announced they were coming out with another iteration of The Little Mermaid, and Ariel is going to be played by a black actress. Ooh, y'all don't believe me? Go look that up right now. White folk had a conniption. This is a fictional character. Ariel was not black. Ariel was not real. Y'all do know mermaids don't exist, right? So then they started saying, well, if mermaids did exist, they live under the sea, outside of the sun. They wouldn't have that much melanin. They couldn't be black. I said, oh, yeah? Well, then Jesus lived in Northeast Africa where there's plenty of sun, and he would have got skin cancer if he was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white dude from Europe with no suntan lotion. So come on, you can't have it both ways. If I can't have black Ariel in the sea away from the sun, you can't have white Jesus in Africa under the sun. Okay? But I mean, they literally had a fit about the mall having a black Santa. They had a fit about Disney depicting black Ariel. They had a fit about Will Smith playing the genie. How dare you change Robin Williams' character to a black dude? They had a fit about Samuel L. Jackson playing Nick Fury in the Marvel movies. Nick Fury, a comic book character. Nick Fury wasn't black. Nick Fury wasn't even real. Oh my goodness. It's absolutely insane. And so, y'all remember, and she's back in the news again with her crazy self, Megyn Kelly, who came out when the argument was being made about a black Santa Claus. She had a fit. She was like, Santa just was white. That, I mean, that like she met him before, like the dude who dressed up, in the suit and came to their house, and their mother made some milk and cookies for, like, he was a real Santa dude. And so I believe it was back in 2013 to 2014. She was in opposition to a black woman who had suggested that Santa Claus should no longer be identified by only white men. And this is what she said. And I want to flip this, and I want to use it on white folks when it comes to white Jesus. Megyn Kelly said, just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change. Yeah, but that's what y'all did when you changed Jesus from black, because it made you feel uncomfortable, and you couldn't perpetuate and push white supremacy if Jesus was black, but you changed it because it made you feel uncomfortable. So she went on to say, this is what she said. She said, Jesus was a white man too. This is Megyn Kelly. Jesus was a white man too. But you know, Jesus was a historical figure. That's a verifiable fact, as is Santa. They just were white. They just were white. No, they weren't white. Okay? And Sean King had it right, y'all. In order to dismantle white supremacy, we've got to dismantle the symbols that help perpetuate white supremacy. And no single institution has done more to perpetuate white supremacy than the white Christian church. That's real. No single institution has done more to perpetuate white supremacy than the white Christian church. And we've got to dismantle those symbols. And I think the first place to start is with white Jesus. Bottom line. I'm coming right back to you right after this song, and I'm going to open up the phone lines. 413-337-1867. Stay with me.
Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. A positive attitude says everything about you. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Every day you get up, you've been given a gift. That's why they call it the present. And it's up to you of how you unwrap it. So yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. So don't let the pain of your past bleed into your present and poison your future. Stop replaying the movie, why did this happen to me? When it's done with you, be done with it. If it seems like you keep running into pigeons, it's an indication that you're flying too low. So set your sights a little higher. Remember, eagles fly by themselves. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. Allow your challenges to be a stepping stone to propel you into new possibilities. So be discontent with your past accomplishment. You're only as great as your last success. So maintain your hunger and your passion. Remember this, within every seed there is a tree. In every tree there is a forest. Who and what you were born into is simply the environment to prepare you for your ultimate purpose. It was not a setback, it was a setup. Your purpose and potential is bigger than your past pain or problem.
All right. I'm going to kick it with y'all another 13 minutes. And so what I want to do for the last part of the program, I want to open up the phone lines, highlight some of your commentary that's out there, see what y'all are saying on this subject about white Jesus. And 413-337-1867 is the number here. If you want to kick it with the bishop, I see my dear friend, the Reverend Mark Bayman. Confederacy was anti-United States. And see, that's the thing. Think about that just for a moment. They want to put up statues of the enemy. How does that make any kind of sense? How does it make any kind of sense? Good evening, caller. You're on the air. Caller, you're on.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Very good. You know what? I have to agree with you. I do think it's actually a fantastic idea that they are taking down the statues of, white Jesus, because that's not how he looked. I mean, and this has always been ingrained. I mean, that's white supremacy for you. It's in religion, it's in the education system, it's in the prison system. So they really have to take it down. And if people really feel offended by that, then it shows you that their religion is whiteness.
Yep, exactly. Like Freddie Haynes last night, they were so busy being white, they never got around to being Christian. And I always say that that white evangelical Christianity is nothing but white supremacy in drag.
And you got a lot of smoke for that.
Yeah. Well, I can take the smoke. I can take it.
And it really shows you, because these white evangelicals, they voted for Donald Trump, who is so comfortable in just spitting out that racist rhetoric. So if they're complicit with that, what makes you think that whiteness comes first?
Absolutely.
Of course, and honestly, just when you just think about this, it's really just so sad in general about what's going on, because just for hundreds of years, Black people have been asking for equality, and
that's it. We haven't been asking for much else. Just treat us fairly, treat us right. That's all.
But again, you have people telling you, you guys are lazy, you want handouts, you want welfare, I just watched Candace Owens' recent video regarding the whole George Floyd case, and man, I really wanted to break down and cry, because it kind of ruined my self-esteem as a Black person.
Yeah, she, here's my thing. If they're so upset about Aunt Jemima being taken off the pancake box, they need to put her on there. They need to put Auntie Ruckus on there.
How she just talked about Black people, like we make criminals look like martyrs, and we celebrate like the lowest in our culture, and cops, we're more of a danger to cops than cops are to Black people.
She says,
wow.
She says what's going to get them to write the checks, to revere her as some type of a conservative hero, to keep putting her on Fox News, to keep inviting her to come to speak to their conservative Klan rallies. She's doing what she needs to do for her and her white husband to continue to pay the bills. Thank you so much for your call. 413-337-1867. Let me see. Pastor Bayman is absolutely correct. Let's see who else we got here. Let me see. Arrogance without wisdom. If the mind identifies with Black, they will have to deal with the guilt of what has happened to us. Yeah, so basically they tell us to forget about it. Now, here's the thing. They want us to forget about it. Forget about slavery, Jim Crow, all that stuff. But yet they've been popping off firecrackers since May. And in a week or so, July 4th is coming. And they're going to have big fireworks shows. They're going to dress up in clothing from the 1700s. They're going to put on tri-cornered hats and white wigs, and they're going to do reenactments of the Revolutionary War, all that kind of stuff. They want us to forget about slavery, but they want to remember themselves fighting against the British. How come y'all get to remember and celebrate the actions you took for your freedom. But you want us to forget about our oppression and what we had to do to get free and what we're doing now, still trying to get free. It's absolutely amazing. The double standard. Stop talking race. Talk about Christ. I am talking about Christ, fool. The hell you think I'm talking about? Christ was the great liberator. That's what he said he came to do. He came to liberate the oppressed. Okay? Every time I talk about freedom, justice, and equality, every time I condemn white supremacy, racism, and anti-black bigotry, I'm talking about Christ. I just ain't talking about your Christ. I just ain't talking about your blonde-haired, blue-eyed surfer Jesus. That's your problem. See this kumbaya Christ, this we are the world Christ that you want me to talk about, that says don't condemn white supremacy, just all get along because Jesus was love. No, I'm talking about the revolutionary Jesus, the one who condemned the hypocrisy of the religious elite, the one who condemned his own people for their bigotry against the Samaritans. Okay, the one who came into the temple and those who took advantage of the poor flipped over the tables and took a whip and ran them out the temple. That's the Jesus that resonates with me. I don't know what the hell Jesus y'all reading about, because I ain't found him in my Bible yet. The Jesus that makes oppressed people docile and passive, I ain't met him yet. I haven't come across him in my Bible. So, you you saltines always talking about, stop talking about race and politics, talk about Jesus. Now, if you want to talk about white Jesus, then you get on your own social media, you find yourself a radio station to broadcast your show, and you sit there and talk about white Jesus until the mayonnaise starts dripping from you. You don't tell me what the hell to talk about. You don't own me. Them days is over. Over. Here we go with he was brown. See, that's what I told you. I told y'all every time we say Jesus was black, they're going to come up with everything. He was a Jew. He was Arab. He was brown. He was olive skinned. Anything to keep him. Now, they admit he wasn't white, but they never had a problem with him being white. Did you notice that? They tell me he was brown. They tell me he was olive. They tell me he was all this other stuff, but they never challenged him being white. They only bring up these other caveats when we say he was black. See, as long as Jesus is white, they don't say, no, Jesus is olive skinned. He's brown. He's a Jew. He was an Arab. They don't say that about the depictions of white Jesus. But as soon as you say Jesus was black, oh, no. He was olive skinned. He was brown. Hypocrites. You understand Jesus's color? Yeah, no, you don't. He's a troll. No wisdom here. Well, why all the trolls be on Periscope? I mean, there'd be some on Facebook and stuff, but most of the trolls be on the scope. That exactly right. People kill me when they say, I know he was a brown man. Yeah, he was black, point blank, period. I'm brown. Okay. If you want to play semantics, let's play semantics. Let's do semantics since y'all want to play semantics. Okay. Let me see that. That's black. That's black. If you want to get technical about the color, okay, that's black. I'm brown. What do y'all call me though? You call me a nigger. You call me a black man. You don't say Bishop Swan ain't black. He's brown. How come that only applies when it comes to Jesus? How come a brown man like me is no longer black when it's Jesus? Because you do know there's all kinds of hues that encompass the black diaspora. But you want to get all technical and say, well, no, technically, he wasn't black. He was brown. So am I. But y'all sure call me black. So if I'm brown and you call me black and Jesus was brown like me, he black too. Just cut it out. Just cut it out. Right. They don't want to acknowledge it. Absolutely right. Exactly. I'm made in his image and after his likeness, Falba. You better believe that. All right. I got a couple more minutes. If y'all gonna get a call in, you better call in now before I take the number down. Once I take the number down, I'm not taking any more calls. 413-337-1867. That's the number that I'm fitting to remove right there. Now listen, let me announce this one more again, because y'all gonna want to be. Now I'm streaming live again on Sunday, our Sunday worship experience at 11 o'clock. We're starting our summer hours, our hour of power. So we'll be streaming for 1 hour. So listen, don't try to get on the stream at 12 just because y'all figured out that's the time I get up to preach. I see y'all. I watch. I see what's happening on the stream, that the numbers of viewers goes up closer to the time that y'all know I'm going to preach. So some of y'all be waiting till 11:45, 12-ish, and then you say, okay, the bishop should be preaching now. So then you click on the live stream. If you click on the live stream at 12 for the rest of the summer, you're going to miss the whole thing, because we're doing an hour of power. All right. We're going to be saying amen and dismissing at 12. All right. So make sure you log on at 11 and catch the entire service. Okay. So make sure y'all get on there now. I want y'all to check us out. Okay. Streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, at 11 a.m. on Sunday. Now listen. Like I said, listen, if you did not come to the Bishop's Barbecue, you got 2 more chances. The invitation is open to everybody. Everybody's welcome to the Bishop's Barbecue. Bring your own drinks, bring a dish, sit down and eat and enjoy. I got some special guests invited to the cookout. Now, listen, last night was fire. I promise you, it was fire. You need to go back and check out the video. If you didn't catch that video, with Dr. Freddie Haynes and Bishop Rudolph McKissick and myself talking about the bastardization of scripture to justify the dehumanization of black people, you need to go and you need to catch that for real. Y'all need to get that and watch it. Need to watch it with somebody. Tell somebody, or do a watch party. That's what you need to do. You need to do a watch party. But you got 2 more chances, because this week is going to be off the chain. I was trying to look up what our subject matter is going to be. So this week we're going to be talking about the systemization of racism as a tool to ensure the subjugation of the other. Systemization of racism as a tool to ensure the subjugation of the other, anybody who is not white. And my guests are going to be, once again, the Reverend Nelson Rivers, activist, organizer with the National Action Network, formerly with the NAACP, Pastor Michael McBride of Live Free, Mass for the People, fine pastor out in Oakland, California. He just testified before Congress about defunding the police as a survivor of police brutality. Just last week, he testified before Congress. He's going to be with me. And then we're going to have a diverse group this week because those are the two black folks we have. Then we've got two white folks. We've got actress Alyssa Milano, who's been very active in several movements across the nation. And then we've got Tim Wise, anti-racism activist and author Tim Wise. Those are going to be our four panelists for this coming Wednesday at 9 p.m. We'll start streaming promptly at 9 p.m. At the Bishop's Barbecue. So you want to come, make sure you can get a plate, man, because you come late, all the good stuff is going to be gone. You might get, a piece of cold chicken or something like that. But you want to be a part of that. And then on the final week, on July 8th, I've got Karen Hunter and Dr. Keisha Blaine, two bad sisters. I'm working on another guest who I'm this close to confirming. If y'all say a prayer for me, that his schedule will allow the Reverend William Barber to join us on that day. So the next 2 Wednesdays, we're continuing the barbecue. There is no raisins in the potato salad, okay? It's just truth served hot off the grill. And to add a little bit of flavor to it, we put the Bishop's special barbecue sauce on there. Pastor Bayman, you know what I'm talking about. We put the special sauce on there, okay? I'm going to move out your way. Listen, join me on Sunday and be ready to join me on Wednesday at the Bishop's Barbecue. Love y'all. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I.
Say his name.